So you're looking for the best budgeting tool for you, but for some reason, for your situation, none really just seem to be working out for you. In this series, we'll cover a wide variety of different budgeting tools and options to help you find your best budgeting fit.
This episode is sponsored by Southern Adventist University.
So in this series, each episode or video will be dedicated to a single budgeting tool. Now, if you just want to cut to the chase, you have the option of skipping the walkthrough section and just going to the end where we do our score summary, who this budgeting tool might be for or who should look further. I highly recommend that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep updated on each video as it's released. Now, another budgeting resource or tool that a lot of people like to use is using a spreadsheet. Highlight behind using a spreadsheet is the overall flexibility and versatility that you can use to kind of customize it to your own financial situation. You can create your own spreadsheet, or you can use templates, which could save you a lot of time. Today we're looking at a specific template from a website called Vertex42.com. They have everything from individual or personal monthly cash flow plans, family or household plans. But the one we're going to look at today really could be used as either something for your household or something for an individual living on their own. This is what their cash flow looks like. Now, they have two versions. They have Excel spreadsheet version, and they also have a Google Sheets. So it's basically just depends on which software you prefer using. I tend to find that Google Sheets is a little more user-friendly than Excel, but it's just a matter of personal preference there. It's a downloadable link, it's free, and then you just click on the link and it'll bring you to this Google spreadsheet. Basically, what you're going to notice looking at the top here, you have a start of period and an end of period. Now, I kind of went in and changed this, but the template might actually have 1/1 whatever the year is. So January 1 of that year, in this case 2019. But you can actually go in and change this. If you click it on here, there's a nice little touch that this usability feature of having a calendar that you can actually toggle through by month and go into the next year. So that's a pretty good feature. So that's how I used it to kind of get up to speed to our current, next month, which would be August. So that's why it's 8/1/19. Basically, this column just represents 1 month. So your budgeting, when you put in your wages, you put it in for the month of August in this case. Or if you're paying for childcare, it's for the month of August. So now you're probably beginning to see that this is just 1 month, but it has about 12 months that you can actually budget and plan out for. The next column right beside it is the following month. So once you change this, when you change this first one, it automatically shifts the remaining columns. So it's kind of an automated thing. You just pick your start period over here, and then you can basically get a bird's eye view of your finances, which I tend to like. I'm a big picture thinker, a big picture person. So if you're someone who likes to think or look at the bigger picture, this might be a really good resource because you can plan or see your budget for 12 months. Underneath that, it has beginning cash balance and then ending cash balance. I think you can kind of just start off with 0 there, assuming that you're just opening this spreadsheet for the first time, and so you're not really have anything from prior history. You could just put 0. And then what that's going to do when you enter your wages, so I'm just going to make up a random number here. You may think of your income as an annual income or weekly income, but with this, you kind of have to adjust your thinking to thinking of it in months. So I'm going to make up a number for what I would probably make in a month. Well, not what I would, but what I wish I would. There you go. So now you automatically see when I did that, it kind of auto-filled a few more fields. When I put my wages and tips, and of course you can, if you have a second source of income, you can insert that value here. But when I put it in here for wages and tips, what that's doing is it's saying my beginning cash balance 0 by the end of the month. So by the end of period, it's estimating that I will have this amount. And that's because I haven't put any expenses in, or outflows is what it calls it. But if I were to add something like groceries, 250 for the month, maybe. Put that in, 250. So it's 4,500 I put here for the wages and tips, but when I added an expense of food groceries, it kind of deducted it from the end cash balance. And so as you add expenses or budget items, if you like to call them, the end cash balance will reduce. And that's essentially, if it gets to zero, that means, you've kind of given every dollar a job, kind of allocated or accounted for all of your expenses or all of the things that you need to get paid for. If it gets in the minus, then like you're over budgeting. I mentioned I like the bigger picture. You're noticing that, and it's kind of a little tricky to envision this with not having a full budget filled out, but this 4,250 is the end balance for August, assuming that I have nothing left to pay for, which would be a lovely thing. Assuming I have nothing left to pay for, what it's doing, it's rolling over that amount over to the next month. If you have a surplus, it will give you a visual of that over time. To make this a little more practical, let me go in and put in a value for the following month, so in income. So let's say I make the same thing every month. So for this month, the end cash balance, assuming that I have nothing left to pay for, would be 4,250. That rolls over to next month, and then it also calculates and adds that same income into that month. And now if I was to put 250 here again, this number is going to reduce as you add expenses in here. You'll notice I'm just going to randomly put numbers in now so you can kind of get an idea. So you see that number dropping. That's just meaning that the expenses are filling up. So what, in a nutshell, what this is showing you is not only the budget for the month, but including the rollover from the previous month. So I think that's a pretty good thing to know. I budget from my take-home pay. If you'd like to budget from your take-home pay, you can just ignore this section pretty much, because this is being deducted by the time you get your money. That's all already been taken out. But if you like to budget from your gross, you can look at your pay stub and see what's coming out of it. You can put those values in here. So if you really like that detailed, nitty-gritty kind of stuff, then this is your resource right here. Availability. This can be downloaded onto your desktop or mobile device. There's an Excel and a Google Sheets version, and it can be printed out and used as a traditional pen to paper budgeting tool. And the best part, it's also free. So we'll give this a score of 10. Usability. The setup is template based, so you have a good starting point. Navigating is pretty simple. Using it can be as simple or complex as you want it to be. It being a spreadsheet, you can customize it to the way you want. A really good feature about this that we hadn't really talked about is how shareable it is, but more on that later. It can be a little overwhelming and hard on the eyes. It's not the most visually friendly either. Now, to really customize this or even troubleshoot this, you might need an understanding of spreadsheet software. So we give this a usability score of 8.5. Versatility. Your knowledge of spreadsheets is the only limit, really. You can change things like your budget categories, the specific names of your expenses. Also, this allows for those with irregular incomes. Another feature that we didn't mention, but there is an average column in the spreadsheet that allows you to put averages, where it basically takes the average of all your month-to-month incomes. Of course, this is only beneficial to you once you've gone through a few months using the spreadsheet. As a point of reference, even though I might have an irregular income, I can look back over the history and see this is about the average I make, and can use that as a resource for planning for the future. So this has got really great flexibility. So we give this versatility score of 10. Money leak management. Now again, this is not connected to a bank account, so you're not able to really track or ID any specific transactions. So there's always the likelihood of money possibly leaking if you're not on top of your expenses and your transactions. But it does give a bird's eye view of your cash flow over 12 months, allowing you to account for a monthly rollover. So it's a little give or take here, but we're going to give this money leak management score a 7.5. Okay, so we've given you the walkthrough, we've given you our score summary, but who's it for? This would probably be more for your do-it-yourself, detailed overthinker. Those who like to itemize everything. Those who like to budget from their gross. Those who love to see the big picture. If you are a solo or startup entrepreneur and you need some sort of budgeting tool for your business, this might be something you might want to consider. That month-to-month overview and the ability to account for any rollover, that may be something really handy for those of you who are entrepreneurs just starting out. Those who like flexibility and customization, those who are savvy with spreadsheet software, those who have a good handle on all their expenses and transactions. And again, our rule of thumb is if the score for the money leak management is low, if you're not really on top of everything, you might have to use this tool in tandem with another. Those who may need to look further are the average Joe who just is kind of looking for something simple. Those who like things easy on the eyes. And if you value having assistance in accurate cash flow management, like the ability to track your transactions, not having to hassle and hunting down where every dollar goes, then you might want to look further. If any or all of these descriptions fit you, you may have to look further at other options. But don't worry, we got you. We will be covering more tools later in this series. I thought I should also point out that on the list of spreadsheet templates on the Vertex 42 website, there is another one that you'll find called the Personal Budget Spreadsheet. This one's very similar to the monthly cash flow, but it's a little bit more simplified. Kind of has that same concept of beginning and ending cash balance, except it's called total income and total expenses. What this does, rather than count down with an ending cash balance, it basically, as you add expenses, it counts up. So if you prefer to seeing a total of your monthly costs as opposed to seeing your expenses reduced down to zero, this might be a better option. But also, as far as the budgeting items, it's categorized to have income, home expenses, transportation, pretty extensive. It's a lot more compartmentalized, simplified. You might find that this might have more general budgeting items or expenses that might be more relevant to you, a little bit more visually interesting as well. It has the months rather than having a defined period where you get to customize that manually. It kind of has that preset for you. It still has the totals and average columns. Maybe you might not think in the process or concept of giving every dollar a job and you want to see your balance go to zero. Maybe you want to see the total for planning purposes. You want to see how you can budget better, or what things you can cut out, or what you're just spending for the month. This might be better in that sense rather than the monthly cash flow worksheet. So yeah, I just thought I would let you look at that. Similar but different in some ways. It's the Personal Budget Spreadsheet, also from Vertex 42.
This episode is sponsored by Southern Adventist University.